Windermere is the largest natural lake in England. It is a ribbon lake formed in a glacial trough after the retreat of ice at the start of the current interglacial. It has been one of the country's most popular places for holidays and summer homes since the arrival of the Kendal and Windermere Railway's branch line in 1847. It is in the county of Cumbria and entirely within the Lake District National Park. Etymology. The word Windermere is thought to translate as Winand or Vinand's Lake. The specific has usually been identified with an Old Swedish personal name Vinand, genitive singular Vinander. Although the personal noun is a very restricted distribution even in Sweden. Another possibility is that it refers to a continental Germanic personal noun, Winand. Since this name could not have been current until the 12th century, the fact that the Old Norse genitive singular has been added to it would suggest that Old Norse was still a living language in the area at that time. The second element is Old English mere, meaning lake or pool. It was known as Wynandermere, or Wynandermere until at least the 19th century. Its name suggests it is a mere, a lake that is broad in relation to its depth, but despite the name this is not the case for Windermere, which in particular has a noticeable thermocline, distinguishing it from typical meres. Until the 19th century, the term lake was, indeed, not much used by or known to the native inhabitants of the area, who referred to it as Windermere Wynandermere water, or Windermere water. The name Windermere or Windermere was used of a parish that had clearly taken its name from the water. The poet Norman Nicholson comments on the use of the phrase Lake Windermere. A certain excuse for the tautology can be made in the case of Windermere, since we need to differentiate between the lake and the town, though it would be better to speak of Windermere Lake and Windermere Town, but no one can excuse such ridiculous clumsiness as Lake Derwentwater and Lake Ullswater. The extensive parish included most of Undermingbeck, Aplethwaite, Troutbeck and Ambleside below Stock, that is, the part of Ambleside that lay south of Stockbeck. The parish church was at Bowness and Undermilnbeck. Geography. Windermere is a ribbon lake. Ribbon lakes are long and narrow. It was formed 13,000 years ago during the last major ice age by two glaciers, one from the Troutbeck Valley and the other from the Fairfield Horseshoe. When the glaciers melted, the lake filled with the meltwater, which was held in by moraine deposited by the glaciers. Scientifically, the lake is regarded as being two separate basins, north and south, with different characteristics influenced by the geology, hard volcanic rocks in the North Basin, and softer shales in the south. The lake is drained from its southernmost point by the River Leven. It is replenished by the rivers Brethay, Rotte, Troutbeck, Kunsebeck and several other lesser streams. The lake is largely surrounded by foothills of the Lake District which provide pleasant low-level walks. To the north and northeast are the higher fells of central Lakeland. There is debate as to whether the sketch of water between Newby Bridge and Lakeside at the southern end of the lake should be considered part of Windermere, or a navigable stretch of the River Leven. This affects the stated length of the lake, which is 18.08 kilometers long if measured from the bridge at Newby Bridge, or 16.9 kilometers if measured from Lakeside. The lake varies in width up to a maximum of 1.49 kilometers, and covers an area of 14.73 square kilometers. With a maximum depth of 66.7 meters and an elevation above sea level of 39 meters, the lowest point of the lake bed is well below sea level. There is only one town or village directly on the Lake shore, Bowness on Windermere, as the village of Windermere does not directly touch the lake and the centre of Ambleside is a mile to the north of Waterhead. The village of Windermere is about 20 minutes walk from Millerground, the nearest points on the Lake shore. It did not exist before the arrival of the railway in 1847. The station was built in an area of open fell and farmland in the township of Aplethwaite. The nearest farm was Birthwaite, which gave its name to the station and the village that began to grow up near it. In about 1859, the residents began to call their new village by the name of Windermere, much to the chagrin of the people of Bowness, which had been the centre of the parish of Windermere for many centuries. Since 1907 the two places have been under one council and, although there are still two separate centres, the area between is largely built up, albeit bordering on woodland and open fields. Windermere Railway Station is a hub for train and bus connections to the surrounding areas. There is a regular train service to Oxenholme on the West Coast Main Line, where there are fast trains to Edinburgh, Glasgow, Manchester Airport, Birmingham and London. Islands. The lake contains 18 islands. By far the largest is the privately owned Belle Isle, opposite Bowness and around a kilometre in length. Its older name was Langholm, and 800 years ago it was the centre of the manor of Windermere and later, in effect, of a moiety of the barony of Kendal. The other islands or homes are considerably smaller. The word home, or home means small island or islet and comes from Old Norse. The island of Ladyholm is named after the chantry that formerly stood there and in former centuries was sometimes called St. Mary Holm or just Mary Holm. The remaining islands are Beholm, Blakeholm, Crowholm, Birk or Birchholm, Grossholm, Lilies of the Valley, Lingholm, Horseholm, Henholm, Maidenholm, Rampholm, Roughholm, Snakeholm, Thompsonholm, Silverholm. Natural history. A high percentage of the lake's drainage area is under cultivation. The lake has a relatively low percentage of lake bed above 9 meters in depth which is rocky. This makes Windermere a rich habitat. The main fish in the lake are trout, char, pike, and perch. The north to south alignment of the lake, combined with its position between Morecambe Bay and the Central Fells, means that it forms a migration highway, with geese often seen in winter. The Freshwater Biological Association was established on the shore of Windermere in 1929 and much of the early work on lake ecology, freshwater biology and limnology was conducted here. Local government. Before 1974, the lake lay wholly within the county of Westmoreland. However, the historic county boundary between Lancashire and Westmoreland ran down the western shore of the lake and also along about 3 miles of the southern section of the eastern shore. Anyone crossing the lake from east to west on the Windermere Ferry thus travels from the historic county of Westmoreland to that of Lancashire. Since local government reorganisation in 1974, Windermere and its shores have been entirely within the district of South Lakeland in the non-metropolitan county of Cumbria. Most planning matters concerned with the lake are, however, the responsibility of the Lake District National Park Authority. Boating, steamers, launches and ferries. Passenger services run the whole length of the lake, from Lakeside Railway Station, on the lakeside and Haverthwaite Heritage Steam Railway at the southern end of the lake, to Waterhead Bay near Ambleside in the north. Intermediate stops are made at Bowness and, by smaller launches only, at Brockhole. Some boats only operate part of the route, or operate out and back cruises, whilst others run the whole distance. These services date back to the former Furness Railway, who built the Lakeside branch, and were at one time operated by British Rail, the former state-owned rail operator. Since privatisation, 3 of the old railway boats are operated by Windermere Lake Cruises Limited, along with a fleet of smaller and more modern launches. 3 of the original 4 boats survive, the MV Tern of 1891, the MV Teal of 1936, and the MV Swan of 1938. The 4th, MV Swift of 1900, was broken up at Lakeside in 1998. Her rudder and only one propeller are displayed at Bowness. Although often described as steamers, all are now diesel motor vessels. Tern and Swift were built with steam engines, but converted to diesel in the 1950s. The Windermere Ferry, a vehicle carrying cable ferry, runs across the lake from Ferry Nab on the eastern side of the lake to Farsauray on the western side of the lake. This service forms part of the B5285. There are also 2 summer-only passenger ferries that cross the lake. One crosses from Lakeside Station to Felfoot Park at the southern end of the lake, whilst the other links Bowness with Farsauray. Boat clubs. There are 4 large boating clubs based around the lake, the Windermere Motorboat Racing Club, the Lake District Boat Club, the Royal Windermere Yacht Club, and the Windermere Cruising Association. The Royal Windermere Yacht Club maintains a set of turning marks on the lake, which are also used by the Windermere Cruising Association. The Lake District Boat Club is a family-orientated club open to all boat users on the lake, With premises located in Bowness, the clubhouse benefits from magnificent views of the lake and surrounding fells. The LDBC also run a full program of both social and racing events. The Windermere Cruising Association organises the popular winter series. This event benefits from not being hindered by the large waves, caused by gales, that often lead to sea racing being cancelled. The WCA also have a full calendar of summer races which are open to all abilities. At the south end of the lake is South Windermere Sailing Club, based at Felford Park on the east shore. It was started in 1961, as a family sailing club and has been the starting point for many successful British dinghy racing competitors including British, European and world champions. The notoriously fluky wind on the lake has proved a successful training ground in learning to read the fast-changing wind. SWSC celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2011 and has developed a strong junior section under the coaching of Julie Tompkinson, who in 2011 was honoured with an RYA Community Award for Outstanding Contribution. Speed records. On Friday 13 June 1930, Sir Henry Sidgrave broke the world water speed record on Windermere in his boat, Miss England 2 at an average speed of 158.94 km per hour. On the third run over the course, off Belgrange, the boat capsized. Sidgrave's mechanic, Victor Helliwell, drowned, but Sidgrave was rescued by support boats. He died a short time later of his injuries. Sidgrave was one of the few people in history who have held the world land speed record and water speed records simultaneously. Fraser Norman Buckley set several world water speed records on Windermere in the 1950s. Speed limits. For many years, power boating and water skiing have been popular activities on the lake. In March 2000, the Lake District National Park Authority controversially introduced a bylaw setting a 10-knot speed limit for all powered craft on the lake, in addition to 3 existing 6-mile-per-hour speed limits for all craft on the upper, lower, and middle sections of the lake. The bylaw came into force in 2000, but there was a 5-year transition period and the new speed limits were only enforced from March 29, 2005. Despite the speed limits, people continue to use power boats on the lake, both legally and illegally. Many organizations, mainly those with an interest in sailing, support the limit, primarily on environmental grounds. Other benefits include restoring the tranquil nature of the lake and making it safer and more accessible for all users. Opponents are concerned that there are no other inland waters in England where water sports and power boating are permitted, whilst sailing is permitted on many other inland waters. Another concern has been the effect on many local businesses of reduced visitor numbers. Many businesses have closed and tourist numbers, especially numbers of users on the lake, have severely dropped since the introduction of the speed limit. There is controversy regarding the environmental benefits of the speed limitation. When powered craft plane, around 20 mph, they produce less of a wake. This has led opponents of the speed limit to argue that by limiting powerboats to 10 knots, more damage is being done per powerboat. Windermere Steamboat Museum. Windermere Steamboat Museum is located on Rarig Road in Bowness, and includes a collection of vintage steamboats dating back to 1850, 5 sailing boats, 2 dugout canoes, as well as information about swallows and Amazons and the history of racing boats. The museum has been closed since 2006 for refurbishment. The long popularity of steam launches on Windermere has even given its name to the Windermere Kettle, a steam-powered tea-urn. Windermere Water Bus. In 2005, the Windermere Management Strategy identified the potential for water bus services on the lake. In 2009, the Lake District National Park Authority commissioned a detailed study into the demand for such services. In July 2009, it was announced that Windermere Lake Cruises would be operating additional stops around the lake. In January 2012, the Park Authority launched a consultation on further expansion of the water bus service. Popular culture. The first lines of William Wordsworth's poem, "There was a boy, ah, there was a boy. Ye knew him well, ye cliffs and islands of Wynanda." The children's books by Arthur Ransom, Swallows and Amazons, and the sequels Swallowdale, Winter Holiday, Pigeon Post and the Picts and the Martyrs, involve school holiday adventures in the 1930s around a fictional lake derived from a combination of Windermere and Coniston water. The fictional lake resembles Windermere, but the surrounding hills and fells resemble those of Coniston water. The BBC made a television series Swallows and Amazons in 1962. Parts of this were filmed at the boathouse of Highton Hill Preparatory School on the northwest shore. In the horror novel The Pike by Cliff Twemlow, a 12-foot-long pike in Windermere goes on a killing spree, and the consequence is a boom in the lake's tourist trade. 2 attempts have been made to film the novel. Windermere and the surrounding countryside is the setting for mystery novelist Elizabeth George's 2012 book Believing the Lie, the 17th in the Inspector Liney series. The area is also featured as an arena in the popular arcade video game Tekken. In November 2009, several scenes were shot on Windermere for the soap opera Coronation Street. The filming centered around Paul White Bay and Paulwood House on the northwest shoreline. The scenes, featuring the newlyweds Gail and Joe on their honeymoon, were aired in January-February 2010. Belle Isle features in the Wardstone Chronicles, The Spook's Mistake. Rather than the large house, though, Belle Isle plays host to a folly which is used by the water witches in the area. Some people believe that there may be a lake monster, similar to the one alleged to live in Loch Ness, and anomalous photos have been taken of the supposed creature. It has been affectionately nicknamed Bownessy. The novel Giant Killer Eels by Stuart Neild is set in the Lake District and features Bownessy-like monsters in Windermere and Lake Unsworth. Great North Swim. On Saturday 13 September 2008, Windermere hosted the inaugural Great North Swim, a 1-mile open water swim involving 2,200 swimmers. The second annual swim took place on 12 and 13 September 2009, with 6,000 swimmers, making this the largest open water swim in the UK. Bibliography: Parker, John Wilson. An Atlas of the English Lakes. Cicerone Press. ISBN A1-85284-355-1. References. External links: Windermere on visitcumbria.com, Windermere Interactive Maps, 2D and 3D.